Hello and welcome to the Video Creator Show, which is brought to you by VidChops.com, an editing service that helps take the burden of editing off your back. Check out VidChops.com to see how you can save yourself tons of time and energy while taking your YouTube channel to the next level. And here we are. Today, I am speaking with Ben Johnson, a man who has brought his YouTube channel to over 138,000 subscribers. He makes a lot of awesome things, but instead of me telling you what these things are, I think it's best to hear from the man himself. Ben, how you doing today? And why don't you tell us what exactly you do on your channel, and tell us a bit about your artistic career.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast today, Grant. My channel is really all about helping content creators, especially like those who are kind of starting out on their journey and looking to level up their content and kind of get some good strategy and figure out how they can, maneuver in the realm of social media and kind of stand out and really make a difference for, helping their audience, growing an audience, all of that type of stuff. So I'm really passionate about helping creators. I'm really passionate about helping creatives and not just, necessarily social media creators, but also just creative business owners and things like that. Prior to YouTube, I started my channel in 2020. So prior to YouTube, I've been running my own business full time since 2015, where I was doing freelance videography, running a wedding company. We also ran a social media agency with multiple clients and would help create content and kind of manage their accounts to get their presence known. And then when 2020 came around, a lot of our wedding clients were rescheduling and all of that good stuff due to the state of the world. And we decided to really take our chance with YouTube and go for it. It was something that I'd been wanting to do for a very long time. It was always sort of in my mind, I was saying like, oh, I'll just get to that one day. But the reality was I was actually very fearful about starting. I was playing the perfectionistic game, the comparison game, and that's kept me from starting for a long time. And when 2020 came around and our wedding clients were kind of like, rescheduling or canceling, it was like, all right, we have time. That can't be my excuse anymore. And so I decided to go for it and we started the channel.
Right on. So, when you started the channel, how did your day-to-day change? Like, were you still doing this business, or were you just full-time YouTube instantly?
We were still doing the business, but we because of the state of the world, it was kind of like a lot of unknown. So it was a lot of us trying to. So our weddings kind of fully halted. We were still getting some payments for couples because the way we do our contracts and stuff, they kind of book and have payment plans, and so we weren't like completely not getting money or anything. But we also had some other clients that some were like not wanting us to go shoot with them in the office or they weren't going into the office and things like that. So our schedule really did change quite a bit. We were still like, running some accounts and like some other things we could do, but for the most part, we pretty much instantly treated YouTube like a full-time business, even though we, had, at the time, you know, under 100 subscribers, it's like we're still going to like treat this as a real thing and as a real business, and we just started putting a lot of time and effort into it. And yeah, that's a little bit how we treated it, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So you've been posting actively for a bit over 2 years, it looks like. And can you walk us through like your strategy? So when you decided to like really go through with this channel, the world shuts down. It kind of gives you this opportunity to really go through with YouTube. Was there, did you have like a post-it note where it was like, all right, we're gonna do this. This is how we're gonna get to 138,000 subscribers. Like how was there a plan, or were you just posting?
No, there was a plan. Again, this was something that was a little bit premeditated, I guess. And by that, I mean, I actually made my first YouTube video, fully made it. I uploaded it. I just never published it 3 years prior to 2020. So, all the way back in 2017, I made a tutorial video about lighting. And I scripted it, edited it, uploaded it. It was just sitting on my channel unlisted because I was too scared to hit publish. But because I had already gone through a little bit of that process, I sort of knew I had done a lot of research over the years about just social media in general, and I kind of knew what I wanted the channel to be to an extent. And so when we went into it, I kind of had a game plan for like, okay, this is how we could actually try to be smart about the channel, as far as trying to get videos discovered, get them positioned well to start making income and all of that stuff.
Hmm. So I think your experience with you made this video, you uploaded it, and you didn't publish it, and it
Right.
was just kind of sitting there for a couple years. It sounds like
3, yep.
that is, yeah, that anxiety is not uncommon. Like, what did it take for you to kind of overcome that? Maybe it's a
Yeah.
bit of a corny question. I know
No,
kind of the
no.
world shutting down was clearly a part of it, but
Yeah.
yeah, can you talk about that?
Well, I think that was part of it from the standpoint that it revealed to me that it wasn't my time or busyness wasn't the real reason why I wasn't starting. Because when it all shut down, I was like, I literally don't have an excuse other than I'm just nervous. And I had to really face that in myself and be like, the realization for me came when it was like, all right, I need to stop being selfish with my own content and I need to be willing to share it with people, because it's like the content's really designed to help people. Like I want to take the knowledge that I've accumulated over the years shooting and what I've learned and all that stuff to help someone else go further faster. And so for me, it was coming to the realization that by holding on to it and not starting, I was actually kind of in a sense being selfish and not really like, I was too consumed with like me or what other people would think about me, than actually helping someone else. And that was kind of a punch in the gut for myself where it was like, okay, I could help someone else on the other side of this. And so that's when I decided to go for it.
Mhm. That's awesome, man. Like that, it's interesting how you phrase that, and I think it's super true. That idea of being selfish, even though maybe when you are going through those feelings initially, it doesn't feel that way. It actually feels the opposite. It's like you're considering all these other people so much more than yourself, but actually, it's kind of your ego talking to you. It's like, oh, this is gonna hurt you, bro.
It was a major pride issue for me. I think that's really what it was, because I was, in a sense, I think I was a little bit just fearful of not even like what so and so may think, but like what if some of the people I look up to one day see these videos that I'm making? What would they think about it? You know what I mean? Kind of playing that like all the people you look up to that are the leaders in your niche or your industry, and being like, what would so and so, the hypothetical opinions of people, where it's kind of like, that was one of the things that kept me boxed in. And it wasn't until I just decided like, hey, I won't ever get better at this or see any increase or growth in this unless I start. And so I just had to be willing to be like, you know what, I can't be at their level yet because I haven't even posted a video yet. And I have a little bit of a weird background because, coming from doing freelance videography for the past years, it's like I wanted to come with excellence and kind of come with like that was what I've been doing as a profession. And so now switching to YouTube, it really is a little bit of a different game, And so it's kind of like I had to realize just because I'm a professional videographer doesn't mean I'm a professional YouTuber yet, and that's okay, So I had to just kind of start there, and just like anybody else, kind of start and grow and put in the work.
And can you talk about the difference between being a freelance videographer and being a YouTuber? Because I think to some people that may not be obvious. So I have some guesses. For me, being a YouTuber was a lot of making videos in a dark room, versus being a videographer, kind of the opposite. You're going out, you're meeting people, you're filming people. There's a sun in the sky. Yeah. So can you tell us a little about the differences there?
I'd say the biggest difference is I was in front of the camera instead of behind it. So I'd say that was one of the biggest differences for me personally. Like a lot of the other times I was working with clients and like helping them be confident and look good in front of camera, and then editing it and learning how to cut it and make it look good for them. But then I got more self-conscious about it when it was myself, because it's like it just is different. And so that was a big change for me, was just learning to like how do I film myself, because that's a little bit different. And just getting better at talking and presenting and like trying to learn how to communicate really. I think that was the other side that's just different than being a freelance videographer, because it's a little different, but and then just learning the strategies, like with a being a videographer, like you have a client who's paying you to do a job. With YouTube, it's more like you're kind of both the client and the one doing it, because you're kind of like figuring out what are the deliverables, like what is it that I'm trying to do for this channel, what is my to-do list, how many videos do I need to make, what shots do I need to get, and you kind of have the free control over that, which can be extremely exciting and liberating, but it can also be kind of like, oh shoot, I have to come up with all of this. So there's the whole idea part of it that can be, just coming up with the direction and the niche and all of that stuff can be a little daunting at first. So
Totally. Yeah, and I find working for other people, it's easy to be more objective, whereas, as you said, when you're in front of the camera and you're the one editing it, suddenly there's like this kind of self-reflective infinite loop of you're looking at your face and second-guessing things. I mean, not necessarily, but I think
no,
it's
yeah,
common for that to happen.
I think so too. I think it can be fairly common, and it's something that I deal with still. Like honestly, it's like it's still something it's like a constant discipline and practice to just keep like being objective with your own content. Um, but at the it's definitely something I've had to work through, and it is different when it's like when it has your name on it. It's like when you're doing something for a client, it's like at the end of the day, it's their content. But then when it's like your own brand, your own business, your own thing, it's like it does have a little bit of a different weight to it. So yeah, but it's all been really fun and exciting. I don't want to make it sound like it's so negative. It's been really fun, and creating content is super fun. And some of the good parts about doing YouTube now is like the whole everything's changed for us. So like the way we like our schedule has changed, like the way we like I create everything I need to within a room, and it's like it's so different than having to travel across states to go shoot a wedding, or go travel and to multiple different locations a day for a shoot. It's like there's a lot of like cool benefits that have changed with stuff like that. And just having the freedom to kind of like choose that direction a little bit is very exciting and fun.
That's awesome, man. So you said like the main goal of your channel was to help other creative people to get ahead. Like you're teaching them the things that you learned through hard work and experience, and you're just kind of putting it out there. So how did you kind of take that soup of information and then turn it into videos?
Right. That's a good question. I think like I think the biggest thing that helped me, for anybody else who's like maybe in a similar situation looking to do that, was to um, not take to basically treat any question as a good question. So like there was never anything that was too basic or too beginner to cover. And just kind of going back to like I think the biggest thing I did was I thought when I was in the position of starting, what were the questions I had? And what did I have to watch 20 videos on, or go work for someone, or go figure out myself, that took me years or took me a ton of time to grasp and comprehend? And I tried to tackle those questions first. So it was just like, what are those basic initial questions you have, and how can I make them very simple and easy to understand, and for the gaps that I found in my own journey figuring it out, kind of closing those gaps, I guess.
Right on. And uh, like just sort of a basic YouTube question here. How often would you say you release? And did you like have you been sticking to a schedule, or is it just kind of like whatever?
For the most part, it's been one a week. So that's been our journey pretty much since the beginning, with a few exceptions. But it's usually one a week. I think that's just a really good goal to aim for, and it totally depends on the type of content that you're making. But for kind of, and I'm looking to to do more. But of course, I think I'd love to be posting every single day. But the reality is, at the moment, it's me and my wife who do this together full time. So with the kind of type of videos that we're producing, usually one a week has been a good schedule for us.
Yeah, I think one a week is usually the magic number because there's a lot of variation in content. As you said, like it depends what you're doing. If you're making a video that's like an hour and a half and very edited and highly researched, you're probably not going to hit one a week. If it's, a shorter video, more simple, though not necessarily that simple, then one a week is more attainable. And I think, I don't know, part of it too, with having a schedule is I find it in some ways adds some pressure, but in some ways takes the pressure off. And what I mean by that is like it's when you have to release a certain amount, you kind of end up just being more objective. You're like, okay, well, I got to get this done, so I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. There we go. Boop, done. Whereas if you have infinite time, you kind of end up, it's easier to end up just being a perfectionist.
Yeah, and I'd actually like to talk to that. There's a kind of this, you know that old saying that says think outside the box, right? Like be creative and all that. I've been trying to like kind of take a slightly different approach with YouTube and social media, and that's to think inside the box. And by that, I'm not saying don't be creative, but by that, what I'm saying is give yourself limitations. And in this example, it's like I'm going to give myself a deadline. There is a time limitation for when I have to release my next video, and so I can't sit there for a month stewing over this video because I've given myself this box or this parameter that I have to then, follow through with. And I think being okay. So, for example, like even my own channel, when I first started out, it was like, oh, I'd love to go do like, cinematic travel films and all this type of stuff. But I placed a box around my channel, literally this room that I'm in. And I was like, it's 2020, all this stuff's going on. I'm going to force myself to create within this room only. And it really liberated me to kind of figure out like, okay, I can actually create content that and try to get creative within this box that I've placed myself in, right? Because I think one of the reasons I hadn't started before was what that reason. Like I had too many options. It's like, oh, I should wait till I go on some cool trip and do a vlog, or I should wait till I go do this, that, and the other to film it. And I never did those things, and so I never filmed anything. So it wasn't until I really put a box around it and said, like, I'm going to force myself to create like my first 100 videos in this room, give or take. It's just like things like that can help you make actual progress and sharpen your skills, and it can be a really good thing. It's the same as niching, right? It's like I'm going to figure out who my audience is and not try to go to everyone outside the box, kind of box it in a little bit and get clarity from it.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And so I think these limitations are weirdly important. As you said, like you started making way more videos. I mean, partially because having to travel somewhere and take some epic cinematic shots. I mean, that takes time and money and energy. If you're limited to a room, then clearly it's just a bit more practical to put things together. And yeah, I think that's great advice for like any creatives listening right now. Sometimes the box is a helpful place to be. Totally agree.
Creatives can hate the box, I think, because we love to let our imaginations run wild and have unlimited canvas options, for us to create on. But there is something when you treat it as a business, though, it's like there is something to it about allowing some of those boxes to help guide you. And honestly, like you can kind of get into your own style that way as well.
Mm-hmm, totally. And so, kind of shifting gears here a bit, YouTube, a big part of it is kind of the business end of things, and monetizing it and sort of making it worthwhile to produce these videos and pay the bills, so to speak. Can you talk about how you're monetizing your channel?
Yeah, we try to view it as like multiple streams of income. And so within like YouTube, we kind of have like a lot of stuff going on. So um of course there's what everybody would kind of first think of as YouTube ads, right? So it's like once you get to that threshold of being able to join the partner program and have the right amount of subs and watch time and all that, you can do monetization. And for us, that's like really the smallest form of revenue. But it's still something, and everything counts, and so I think a lot of people when they start out kind of think that's the way, and it's like that's a way, but it's not necessarily has to be like the way. So a huge revenue stream for us is actually affiliate marketing. That's been absolutely really really good for us due to the type of channel we have. Like if we're doing a review on a piece of gear and then we have affiliate links to the gear, that's awesome. If we started doing affiliate links in the beginning with just like music licensing companies for our music and things like that. And we found that through doing these affiliate links, it actually started to get some of those brands to notice us when they realized we were driving traffic to them. And then that moved us into the realm of sponsorships, because then they started to kind of double down on that and like, hey, we want to actually pay you to highlight our brand in this next video or whatever. And so we kind of moved into the sponsorship realm of things. And then even beyond that, we started giving away a free course where we would start collecting emails for an email list. And then just within the past month, little over a month, we launched our very first paid course. And so now we have an actual paid product that we're offering people, that's been another revenue stream for us even already in the first month, which is really cool. Um, and yeah, I think that's like the general census of kind of some of the ways that we're monetizing it.
Awesome. And can you tell us a bit more about this paid course?
Yeah, for sure. So the course is well, I'll give you brief background. Like the most popular video on my channel is called Lighting for YouTube Videos, Make Your Videos Stand Out. And I would say a lot of people probably know me for my lighting content on my channel. That's just how a lot of people have found me in the videos that have done well. And so I decided to kind of let that be an indicator for me that's like, okay, people know me for this, they kind of like what I'm doing with this. Let me make a sort of a 90-minute mini course style thing that's really in depth on this. So it's learnvideolighting.com. And I basically just teaching you everything I know about lighting in 90 minutes. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds awesome. Like, so when I was watching your videos preparing for this, I saw a lot of lighting videos and I learned a lot. One thing I learned is that LED lights are not that flattering, and here I am just with a bunch of LED lights. I've been making myself look weird and shadowy all these years, and I had no idea.
yeah, I mean it's all about what you do with them. You can get around it with some little tactics, but softboxes can make it easy. But again, it's little things like that though, right? It's like those little questions that like as a content creator, you're starting your channel, you're like, oh, lighting's important. Maybe I should get some lights, and it's like, there's all these options. Which one should I choose? And it's like I've had to ask those questions myself through over the years, and so again, going back to that question you asked earlier, that's sort of how I figure out what videos to make. It's just like, what are these questions the audience may have or wonder about that I can kind of answer in a quick 5-minute video or whatever.
Mm-hmm, sure. And so when it comes to what you were talking about with affiliate marketing, I know like in order to do that, usually you can just Google like a company plus affiliate program or something like that. You can usually get some links, put them in the description, and that's kind of the way to start. But you said that companies started noticing you, like you started generating enough traffic for them to where they noticed you. So did they reach out to you? Did you reach out to them and they were like, "Oh yeah, you are generating a lot of traffic." Could you walk us through that process?
It's been it's happened both ways, but the majority of it actually was them reaching out to us, which was really cool. So, for example, like our music licensing company that we use, we were. I've done a ton of research on like what's the best place to get copyright music, and I found the one that I liked the most that I thought was the best value for the money. And so I just would occasionally make videos even on that topic. So I made a video about like which is the best music licensing site for your content so you don't have to get copyright striked and all that. And I recommended this company in that video. Well, that video did really well, and because of that, it's like people were going to their site to sign up through my affiliate link, and I was making money off of that, which is fantastic because that's a great revenue source. But because I was sending so many, that company hadn't seen a ton of like those type of spikes in traffic, and so that's why they ended up reaching out and they're like, hey, we'd like to do more videos with you basically, and so where we actually pay you to do it. And so that would be an example of how that worked. And then on the other hand, there's been there's like a video editing plugin company that we partner with, and I've reached out to them. I was already doing affiliate stuff with them, but I actually reached out and was like, "Hey, we recommend you all the time. We'd like to be a good fit. Like, would you be interested in working together?" And then we kind of started off with some smaller deals and worked our way up. So it's like different journeys to the destinations that we have now.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And I think it's the one nice thing about affiliate marketing I find is, you can really choose stuff that you actually use. And it's a very natural pitch. It's organic, I mean, you're all in a way not even pitching it. You're just like, this is what I use and I really like it. And the link in the description if you want to check it out and you support the channel. And I think that's just easy to do. It comes across well. Audiences appreciate it, and or at least they don't mind it.
Well, and that, to speak to that, I think that's one, I guess, advantage that I've had being a videographer prior to YouTube is like using these. I've figured out what tools I liked for my business, and now I'm just talking about it on YouTube. And so it wasn't like I was just starting from scratch. Like I didn't know how to make videos, didn't know what was out there. Like because I have that back experience of like products that I've sought after and found and used and like tried and true, I love them. Then I'm able to recommend them to people just like I would recommend them to a friend or someone else in the industry. It's like I can just recommend them to the audience because I genuinely believe in them. And honestly, that's like my best advice for anyone trying to get into affiliate marketing is like definitely like only recommend stuff you love, because it's like people will see through it in a second. They'll see through, all of that stuff. It's like just recommend stuff that you actually use or like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's easier for you. Like, I don't know. There's something weird about getting in front of a camera and being like, "Check out this thing that I don't care about," with a fake smile, and it's just, I don't know. It's exhausting, and usually doesn't work anyway. So why bother? Mm-hmm. So now we're at this point in the interview where I like to ask about your kind of day to day these days. So you're making about one video a week, and you also have this company. Like, how many hours a week would you say you spend on YouTube versus your company?
that's a good question. It's hard to answer that because we've been in transition. So it's sort of like when we first started, it was a lot more hours in the company, but then we decided to kind of put YouTube at the forefront. And now we're kind of, in a way, trying to phase out the company. And so, really, at this point, we're pretty much not doing a whole lot with the company, and we're mainly doing YouTube. And the reason why is because, like, the company will still be there. Like, the majority of what we were doing in 2020 was really weddings. That was like our bread and butter. And so like people will still be getting married and we still get inquiries and stuff, but we aren't taking on as much. We actually just ended up like raising our prices a lot on it just because it's like we're not trying to book them. And so nowadays it's really just focusing on YouTube and beyond YouTube, really everything that encompasses. So not just like making a video, but like figuring out what's our next step. Like we just did the course. And so while we made that course, that took us a full 3 weeks of like late nights, doing shoots and doing all this stuff because we put a deadline for when we wanted to release it. And so we didn't post a video for like 3 weeks on YouTube because we were making like 10, for the course. And so it's kind of juggling it around. As far as our day to day, it will shift and change because sometimes we'll have things like this where people will reach out and they'll want us to be a guest on a podcast or a live stream, or we have calls with brands and trying to figure out like what's our strategy, what are they launching, what are we doing. And so there's a lot of stuff that kind of goes into it now. Outside of, I would say, making the videos is like half or less of our time, and the rest of it is doing all the other things. But and really just trying to make time to plan, plan for the future. I think that's like one of the biggest things that we try to sit around and do is just like, okay, where are we know where we're at, but like where are we going, what's our plan, like what type of content are we wanting to do, all that stuff. So it's hard to give you an exact hour amount or an exact like structure because it does change depending on what we have on our plate with some of those things. But for the most part, you know, the Monday through Friday, we're just we're treating it like 9 to 5 in a way, and we try to like, because my wife and I, we do this together, and it's like we do try to clock out, because we want to be able to be balanced. Like I've gone so many times on the opposite side, and I bought into the hustle culture and work, work, work till you're dead. And it's like, man, that's just not the way I want to live. It's like I want to be able to have more balance and just be effective when I show up to work. And so we've been really over the past few months, even especially since the course has been done, we've been trying to practice just rest and like having that blank space, because it's in the blank space that you get to have new vision for things. So
Absolutely. I'm so happy you said that. I the last couple years took a lot of time to rest, and I was working enough to get by. But ultimately I was focusing on my mental health and like recharging, and YouTube for me was I was doing it wrong. You're doing it right. And so I felt very drained after many years of doing this. Like, if you don't rest, if you don't recharge, you do end up kind of losing sight of even what you want. And you kind of end up focusing on trying to get through the day versus trying to succeed next month. And you can kind of just, I mean, it's exhausting, it's ineffective, it ultimately will not get you what you want. So I'm glad that you're moving in that
we're
direction,
trying to, we're
especially.
trying to. It's not like we get it right all the time, and I think the reason we are trying to is because we have gotten it wrong, and I think it's not like, it's definitely, it's just once you experience burnout, it's like you do everything you can to try to avoid it, but at the same time you still got to get stuff done, and work is just, I have such an interesting like opinion of work, I guess, but like I really do think that it is a gift. Like work is awesome. It's amazing to have purpose and to do things, and to be intentional with things and to build things. Like that's a gift that we have. But like sometimes we can, when we get our own selves wrapped up in it, and our kind of like, again, pride can get in the way and things can get in the way, our egos can get in the way, and it's like it's so easy to have that that gift of work turn into something that's a little bit of a weight or a burden to carry. And I think when that happens, it can be just draining and unfulfilling, and you end up questioning, and you feel unconfident with everything, and you could even be growing or making progress, but it doesn't feel like you're doing enough, or that you are enough, and it's like that's not the place you want to be in, or stay in. And so that's why the rest is so important, because it kind of lets you recenter and realize, okay, what is the purpose of the work anyways? It's and kind of getting back to the root of it all. So
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And especially with something creative where you're kind of having to create something new every week or whatever the deadline is. If you aren't getting enough rest over time, it's going to catch up with you. And I think there's something like I almost felt when I was burned out that I had betrayed myself or something, where I initially got into YouTube and as a means of expressing myself and doing exactly what I wanted to do. And if you end up becoming, I mean, to be dramatic, a slave to your channel, your outlet, then you sort of end up doing exactly what you would have done at like a job that you don't like, and chances are you might be making less money too. And you can't even clock out, and or you can, but sometimes you can't because of how your mind works. And so it's like it can be frustrating and annoying. But you also said that you are kind of working towards things and figuring things out. And I think the freedom here is like a double-edged sword. And I'm glad that you're able to see the positive in it and start to push it towards like making your life better. And I've been better at that recently too, I feel like. So it's this is a positive success story, people. I hope I'm not coming across as too negative or dramatic or something.
yeah, no, I think that's again, I love to talk about this topic because I don't think it's talked about enough. I think you have a lot of people in the business world and in the industry that are, very much like, you need to work hard and you need to do all this stuff, and I agree with that. I think that's important. Like, it's good to do all those things, but you also got to take care of yourself, and you, so that you can be your best, not just at your job, but for your family, and for your friends and for the people in your life. And I think it's just good to like not let yourself get lost in it. And again, I'm passionate about this because I struggle with this. So it's definitely, I'm not coming at this from a place where it's like I've got it all figured out. I'm just trying. But I think that we've been through that season a few times over the course of the years, and it's like, there's indicators now when I start to realize, like, okay, why am I feeling a certain way about this or whatever. It's like I start to realize indicators in my own life that's like, okay, maybe I need to take a step back. I'm getting too involved in this. So yeah.
Totally. Yeah, and taking a step back, I think that's like the phrase of the day. Getting more of a bird's eye view of what you're looking for, because ultimately that's why we did this in the first place, right? So you can do what you wanted to do, create your own life, and there is a lot of flexibility.
Yeah, and it can be a super rewarding thing to pursue and to do. Not again, not even just for your own life, but because with this type of platform, depending on what it is that you're doing, like you really can help other people and entertain other people and find some purpose in that too. So I think that there's a lot of that's what I always try to tell people, like, when they're trying to figure out all this stuff is like, don't pursue the money because there'll never be enough to fulfill you. Don't pursue the fame or the opinions of people because those can change in a second. It's like just find purpose in like making content that can help other people or entertain other people, make somebody smile, and it's like you can find some reward in that, just by adding value to people. Um, the other stuff, it's like some of those goals or aspirations, they just aren't the way to go in the long term, I think.
Mm-hmm. Totally. So, you mentioned a bit earlier about kind of looking towards the future. Can you tell us a bit about your future plans on YouTube?
It's a great question. That's really what we've been trying to figure out. I think like this is just so a little bit about my, again, with sort of the way we ended up where we're at with the channel now. Um I really kind of let the audience dictate what the channel has become. So when I first started out, there were certain I had a few different routes that I could go with it that I was considering. And when we started to see some success in certain areas, we kind of like let that lead us a little bit. Um, and so like when I was first starting out, I was like, maybe I'll go more of the Peter McKinnon route, kind of do the cinematic vlogs and all that. Or maybe I'll go the more think media route and do more of the tutorials and, reviews. And we started trying little bits of both, and people gravitated towards more of the tutorials and reviews. And so we kind of honed in on that because success leaves clues. So we were kind of like leaning into that. And so now that we're doing that as our channel, I think looking towards the future, for us, it's really just figuring out how we can scale. And eventually we may even try to start or either rebrand our channel a bit or start a new one where I'm not the face of it. That's my goal. My 10-year goal is to have another channel or brand or rebrand this one so that it's less about Ben Johnson and it's more a company of sorts that we can hire multiple content creators to run, and it can be a full-fledged business where I can kind of more or less give the vision and oversee it, versus having to be in the grind day to day of actually creating. So that would be sort of the long-term plan. Um, and so we're figuring out what steps we need to do to achieve that. But also putting in the work to keep the channel growing and sustaining so it can be a sort of launch platform for our next endeavors.
Mm-hmm. That awesome, dude. So, what steps do you feel like you do need to take? I know this. You said this is like a 10-year goal, so it's kind of abstract right now. But like, at least where you're at right now, how do you see yourself getting from Ben Johnson, YouTube guy, to a full-fledged media company with multiple personalities? How do you see that going?
Um, Honestly, the way I see it going is I think I'm going to create a course that's going to be kind of our flagship course, and that whatever the name of that, it's going to be basically everything you need to be a content creator, like A to Z, how you can be a full-time content creator. And so it's going to be whatever the name of that course is going to be strategic so that we can have a channel associated with it and or rebrand mine with it. And that flagship course will kind of be what the other how we get there. I think that will be the bridge, because then we can promote that course as a brand, they'll be trying to figure out a really catchy name for it and all that good stuff that can be sounding good as a course name or as a channel name. But that's kind of how I think we'll do it. Again, that could change, but as of now, that's sort of the route I think we'll go. But we're taking a little bit of a break after just releasing our first kind of mini course, because even doing that was a lot of work. So I'm terrified to do the big guy, but we'll get there eventually.
Totally. So what is it like making a course? I've talked to some people about it, not in like great detail. It seems I mean, you have to like figure out how to organize this information and make a bunch of videos. Like what is that like?
Um, Again, I can only speak to what it was like for me. Um, and so it's basically like the way we did it was we created 10 videos. It's about 90 minutes of content, but I mean, it is very power packed, I'll say. Like it still has all the B-roll, all of the things to help you learn and visualize and see. And so it was not so much of just like, let me sit here and talk to you for an hour and we'll move on. It was very much like, I want this to be like you're getting the very top notch premium of like the YouTube style content that I do, but it's very much like they're paying for it, right? So it's kind of like I need to take it at the next step higher. So yeah, it was very much just coming up with the curriculum was interesting, because it's like I'm not a teacher, like that's not really my background, but I just tried to lay it out from the standpoint of like how would I learn this, or how do I wish I could have learned this thing. Um, and then it was just a lot of shooting, a lot of editing, and yeah. But the cool thing with the course is like I don't have to worry about an algorithm with the course. Like I don't have to worry about like viewer retention necessarily like in the way I do with YouTube, right? So it's a little bit different because it's like sending people to a platform that you kind of have full control of, depending on how you do it. But um, so that was interesting because there were certain things I do on YouTube that I didn't have to do in the course, right? Because it's like I don't need to ask somebody to subscribe or set up the intro to make them watch longer. It's like they're there to watch it. They paid for it. So I think like that was sort of an interesting tactic, approach, I guess. It was a different approach to doing the course, but it was our first one. So, we learned a lot, and in going about it the next time, there's things I would do different. But it was a good learning experience.
Sure. And yeah, the nice thing about making something like that is it does contrast YouTube, where YouTube can feel very ephemeral. You put a video out and you kind of hope it gets a certain amount of views, or even if you have like a sponsorship on it and they're paying you X amount of money, you still like want it to perform so that the sponsor comes back. And there's like it's kind of every week, every month you are kind of it feels like you're having to keep the momentum going. Whereas when you make something and it just exists forever, yes, if you get more views on your channel, you can drive more traffic to it, but you're still kind of getting, a consistent amount of traffic to this thing that will exist forever.
Yeah, and that's how
You're
I
not,
viewed it.
yeah.
That was sort of the view for it, was like, all right, I didn't want this to be, some people do courses where it's kind of like this is like a limited time, a couple times a year they open up their course. Like I wanted this one to be more of like an evergreen product that's just always there. And so we really tried to make it timeless in that sense. Um, and that's really been our strategy. Our strategy with YouTube is with the type of content that we do, it's not so much about the views we get up front when we post. We really do it and position our videos for the search. So we position it to get seen years from now and still be effective. And we try to cover topics that will be relevant, for for the longevity, not just like what's trending or what's new. We do that sometimes, of course, as strategy, but like most of the time our videos on YouTube are very geared for evergreen content. And so we wanted to make the course to kind of match that system a little bit.
That's great, because I think a lot of people fall into the trap of, oh, we gotta cover what's trending all the time as much as possible. And, you can generate a lot of attention to your channel doing that, but when you focus on evergreen stuff, you kind of build a business around that. I think
Yeah.
it's a lot more sustainable and less stressful.
Yeah. There's I've heard a quote. I think it was from Sean Cannell, who said that you kind of treat each video as your own employee. So it's like once you make that video, it's like you just hired an employee to go out to work for you. And I love that concept because in that sense, you really do think of it like a business, and you're like, how can this employee, this video, serve people for years to come? And so you can kind of put in that extra effort to make it really polished and good, so, and just cut the fluff, get straight to the point, help people, you know, make them leave feeling inspired, whatever it is that you're doing. And then it can be set up in that way to do it for years to come. So even if you post that video and up front you're like, it didn't perform the best, it doesn't necessarily indicate that it won't perform the best, right? So it still has time to grow and to be found and be discovered if you position it well.
Yeah, totally. Like I've made videos where they performed okay to below average, and then like 10 months later they suddenly just start getting like an uptick in views. Patience is key.
Patience is key, and I'd love to even just give the example of like the biggest video on our channel, the lighting for YouTube video, had that similar story. We posted it, and it was under 1,000 views for probably 4 or 5 months, and then all of a sudden it just caught like fire, and it's got like 2.7 million views now, and it's still getting views. And so all of that to say, like, it really is, it's not just some hope or dream that could happen. Like, I've seen that happen with a few of my videos where months later they then take off, because again, it's not like they just magically took off. They were positioned so that they could, they were titled in a way that they could, and the thumbnails and all of that stuff that went into it. But yeah, I just like that approach. I think it's a lot more sustainable for people who are wanting to make it a real business and be making six figures a year or more. And it's like, doing that strategy, I think, can work really well. It can be a little harder just doing like the vlog style, like, let me tell you about my day. There's pressure on that always to have like your day be extremely entertaining and fun, and so doing stuff that's a little bit more search based or optimized can take a little bit of that pressure off. Comes with its own pressures, but I think that it's something that can work well for a lot of business minded people.
So what would you say is the difference between positioning a video to succeed in the long run versus positioning one to succeed immediately?
So to positioning, to me, it's all about the title and thumbnail, and the topic, really, the ultimately the topic. But if I was making a video on, we'll just say lighting, because I make so many videos on that, rather than saying something like where your title is more clickbait style or like enticing, like uh, you'll never believe how I lit this. It's like that might get some rapid fire
You'll
attention.
never guess.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it might get some rapid fire, like, oh, what's he talking about? But if I do what I did, where it's like lighting for YouTube videos, make your video stand out or whatever. It's sort of like people will search lighting for YouTube videos. They're not necessarily going to search, check out how I lit this video, right? Because that's like, why would you search that? And so I think it's sort of phrasing it and presenting it in a way where it's not so viral, trendy in the moment, like attitude, but it's more just like answering the question that people have in a way that is can always be valuable years from now. And it's not getting rid of phrasing even in the video that's like today or right now or whatever, and thinking about like, try to watch the video back once you've made it, or really before you made it, but especially after you've made it. Like, would this make sense for a year from me now to watch this? Kind of viewing it like that, if that's your goal. The other strategy can work extremely well too, especially depending on your niche or what you're doing. But in the terms of how what I do, and what we have found effective with our model, I guess, of how we do it, it's very much treating the titles that way, where it's more evergreen.
Mm-hmm. You just explained better than I've ever heard the risk of clickbait, and the positives of not doing it. Because yeah, like it's I've certainly fallen into the trap of wanting to do clickbait, and I've done it, and I've seen the sort of immediate effects, only to see that kind of in the long run the video usually fizzles out, or it doesn't really grow over time, or it's not evergreen. And I guess it sort of always confused me why, but that's a great reason. You explained it really
Oh,
well.
thank you.
Just.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, we've tested both on our channel, and it can be the dangers of doing the not really dangers, but the downside, I guess, of doing the evergreen style content is like it can bring lower views up front, and that can be again, you got to be humble. You got to be like, all right, I've got a 140,000 channel size, and I'm getting like a couple thousand views up front or whatever, and it's like, but again, just the way we're positioning it, I know that these things are good and can be helpful, and I've seen it time and time again take off over time. And so I think it's just one of those things that you got to be okay with getting the lower views and have the patience and treat it like an investment. It's treating it like an investment. The other way is more immediate gratification, but may not be as good for your channel in the long run because it could put the pressure of always having to do something in the moment. Whereas the other way, it's like videos that I made last year are still bringing in tons of views for our channel. So it's like I could not make a video for a month, but well, actually, when we did the course and we went 3 weeks without making a video, we had more views than normal because of our older videos. So it's like there's power in it, is what I guess I'm getting at. So both ways can be very good, but for me, I just wanted to go more that route because I love the idea of putting a lot of work in now and having the benefits later on.
Right, and it makes a lot of sense, and I think there's a lot of pressure on release day. You know, you like, oh, I love this video. I really hope it does well. I'm gonna check it every 5 minutes. And if it's not like exploding or even doing moderately well, it can feel like you failed. And I don't know. There's like this kind of romanticized idea, I think, of releasing a YouTube video, falling asleep, waking up, and you're famous or something. Um, and even just maybe a more simple idea is being patient kind of sucks sometimes. You know, you just want to know if this video is going to be worth all the work that you put into it, and you want to know now. But sometimes it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and I would say like I think it's such a like honestly, I think it's such a blessing sometimes that it doesn't, because I feel like sometimes like I don't know, like if I were to make my first YouTube video and it went viral and I suddenly had all these subscribers and all these things or whatever, like that could be good, but it could also be not good because it's kind of like, well, what if that wasn't really the direction I wanted to go for the channel? Or like, what if that, and now I'm kind of roped into all these people that want something from me and I wasn't ready for it, you know? And so there can be, we have this, like you said, that kind of romantic idea of like, let me just fall asleep and then I'll be famous overnight. But it's like, it's in that waiting game, that longer season where you are refined and can grow and get better at your skills and sharpen them and get direction and get clarity and even just have appreciation for it, for the whole opportunity in general. And it's like I think that good things take time for a reason, and I think that it's like it will be overnight success is cool, but it can be dangerous because you don't necessarily have that good foundation to stand on. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think when you focus more on the long run too, it's easier to see what actually works. Whereas overnight success is kind of volatile, and sometimes it can just be lucky too, like right place, right time, and you don't necessarily realize that you did just get lucky. Like if you had decided to make this video 6 months later or something, then you wouldn't have gotten the success, and then you're sort of trying to compare yourself to this thing that was sort of unfair to begin with. You're trying to keep that up, and I mean that's just not healthy. It's not
yeah,
good. It's not going to
it
work.
can be an unhealthy standard then to attain or to reach where it's like, yeah. So again, like anybody who has gotten viral overnight, congrats, that's cool. But like, for those of us who are in the daily grind growing the channel, it's like, hey, just hang in there, keep going at it. Like all of these things you're learning every time a video flops or doesn't do as good, like you're going to learn why, or you're going to learn that maybe it is still a good video and it will take time or whatever. It's like there's a lot to learn. And I think if we can have that as our forefront thought, as like rather than viewing something as a loss, we can view it as a lesson and kind of figure out what can we gain from it. That's how we get better, you know, and I think at the end of the day, that's a great thing.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Well, Ben, I feel like I've learned a lot today. I really love your perspective.
Thanks.
You're a balanced guy. You know what you're doing, and I appreciate you taking your time to talk with me today.
Absolutely, man. It's been awesome, and I appreciate you guys trusting your time and your audience with me, and just trying my best to share what I've learned and what I think about stuff.
Right on. Well, so Ben, why don't you tell people where they can find you, where can they find your course, all that good stuff.
Okay, awesome. You guys can find me on YouTube if you search up Ben Johnson. You might find me if you search up lighting for YouTube videos. On Instagram, it's Ben Johnson Creative. Feel free to connect with me there. And if you're interested in leveling up your content and standing out online, you can check out my new lighting course at learnvideolighting.com.
Beautiful. Well said. And there you have it, people. Go check them out. You won't be disappointed. And, if you made it this far, definitely make sure you subscribe, follow whatever platform you're on so that you can hear my voice in the next one. And that's a wrap. Bye, everybody.